So welcome again. This is Kenya Data Platform User Group, and we are continuing with our TypeScript 101 series. And my name is Dennis Washira, a computer science student from Kirinyaga University. And for those who might be joining for the first time, you can always find me on LinkedIn as Dennis Washira. You can always find all the recordings of this series on my YouTube channel, Code with Dennis, and also you can follow me on Twitter at our Twitter or X, which is Dennis Washira _ And it's always our tradition to keep our code of conduct by adhering to this, by treating everyone with respect, and also use inclusive language, and create an environment where everyone feels comfortable to ask a question. And our today's session, it's all about control statements and loops. So control statements direct the flow of execution and in a program, and they also help in decision making and also loop execution. And the four main conditional statements we'll be focusing today. It's if and if else statement. We have if else if statement and switch statement. So there are other conditional statements, but we'll primarily focus on these for this session. And if we get started for the first if statement, the if statement execute a block of code only if a condition is true. So this like an example is like checking the user meets requirements, maybe age verification, something like that. And this is the syntax of how if statement is written. So you use the keyword if, then the condition, then the block of statement that you want to be executed if that condition is true. Then we have if else. So it's the same way as the if statement, but now with another code of block where it's else. So if else statement is used to execute either of the two block of statement, depends upon the condition. So if the condition is true, then if block will execute. So if the condition is true, like if age is greater than 18, so this block of code, it will be executed. Else, if the condition is false, the second part of the block of the code, it will be executed. And if else statement can be used when maybe displaying different UI elements and based on conditions, based on conditions, like if you are a normal user or admin, so you can execute this. If this is this, execute this. Then if else if statement is used when you have a multiple condition need to be checked. An example is a grading system. So a grading system, it has like a multiple condition to check, maybe to check for marks greater than 90, marks greater than 80, but less than 90. So you have multiple conditions to check. So yes, if statement it's suitable for this execution, for this scenario. And the syntax of this is you have the if keyword, then the condition, 1, you execute this. Then you use else if condition 2 is met, you should execute this, and you go on and you go on until you reach at the end of your statement, which is now the else part. And last on this condition statement, we shall be looking today, it's a switch statement, and it compares a single variable against multiple possible values. The use case of this switch case, mostly when maybe handling user roles. So if you have like multiple users in your system and you need to render you need to render something or UI on that in your application, you can use the switch case to check, to loop through and be able to display different UI component based on the user roles, maybe admin, super admin, and normal admin, and maybe a viewer. And also maybe when navigating to menu navigation or an API code, response code, and is always to include a default case in your switch statement to avoid to handle of unexpected values that might not be catered by other cases that you had included in your switch statement. And that's all about the conditional statements. And the second topic we shall look today, it's loops. And for loops, also we shall look for 4 types of loops, but there are more, but these are the most commonly used loops. And we have for loop, for in loop, while loop, and do while loop. And starting the first one, for loop. So for loop is used to iterate over items, and it has some 3 parts in the condition. So in the parentheses, we have the initialization statement. So this is used to initialize the loop variable. So maybe I is starting from 0 or 1. Then the second statement is the Boolean expression. So it is used to check the condition, whether it returns a true or false. So we are checking like this I. So like for instance, this I is 0. So I is less than 0. So that's true. So that's a Boolean expression that returned on this expression, and that means like we need now to execute this code here. Then the last one is a statement. So it is used either to increment or decrement the loop. For instance, for this case, we are incrementing our I. So anytime we check it turns true, we need to increment by 1. So for initial, I was 0. Then if I is less than 5, that's true. Then we need to increment I plus 1, which is now 2, and display that. Then we come back again. I was 1. Then 1 is less than 5, that's true. Then I increment, so 1 plus 1, that's 2. Then we display that. So that's how a loop works. A for loop, then for in loop is used to iterate properties of an object. We have for in and for off. So for in is mostly suitable for iterating properties of an object, but for off is used for iterating element values or elements in array. And this is an example of how you iterate through an object, key or properties of an object using for loop. So you have an object person which has 3 keys, which is a first name, we have last name, and age. And we have a property which is empty for now. Then we loop through using the for in. So for each one property in this person. So you have this property with this property and this property. So for each property of this object, we need to console log that the key of that object and also the value of that using the square notation way of accessing elements or properties of an object. Then we have a while loop. So a while loop repeatedly execute a block of statement until a particular condition is true. So it first check the condition and execute a block of statement if the condition is true. So this is the syntax of the while loop. So you need now the while, then the condition, so then the execution. So the loop cannot run before checking the condition. So it need to check the condition before executing the code. And that's the big difference between a while and a do while. So a do while will always run once before checking the condition. So do while loop repeatedly executes a block of statement until a particular condition is true. So it first executes the block of the statement, then it check for condition. And do while is most suitable when using loop over while, because a use case of this do while is when maybe you are asking a user input until a valid data is implemented or entered. So the do while it will always run once before checking the condition. Maybe when you expect the user to input the username, so it will always run and check whether the username is entered. If not, then check the condition and run again for that. So those are the four primary loops we use mostly in our coding. And I want now to demo these condition statements and loops in our VS Code, and let's see how they work. And before I shift to my VS Code, if you have any question, you can raise your hand or chat in the text in the chat, and I'll respond as we go on. So let me share my VS Code. So any question so far before we dive into our practical today? Okay, so if you can see my screen, my VS Code, let me know, a thumbs up. A thumbs up if you can see my screen, please. Thank you, Edwin. We can move on. So last weekend, we tackled about various functions in TypeScript. We talked about functions, named functions. We have functions expression. We have parameterized function, callbacks, and so and so. And today we are looking about control statements and loops. So let me create a new file in my source folder. So and I can call it control statement. index.ts. Then let me export this file. So under my index file, I need to import this file now. So I just need to comment this, then import our file, which is import, then control statement from the control statement file. Then I need to comment this and call my control statement there. So I just need to have maybe a console to make sure like everything is working before we start writing any code. So then I need to start my project using npm run dev. So just a minute for the project to start. Yes, you can see now our project is, our file is correctly imported into our index.ts file, and we can go on. So I want us to start with the if statement. So the condition, conditional statement, which is a if statement, and we said like if statement, it always execute the code block if that if the condition is true. So I want just to have an example of an age. So I want just to declare a variable age or my age, and then assign it to 20. Then remember this is TypeScript. We need to type everything. So it's of like type number. Then if I want to use now the if statement, and maybe to check whether I'm eligible for voting, so I use if, then the condition. So the condition is I want to use my age as the condition to check. And for you to vote, you must be 18, or you must be of age 18 and above. So that's my condition. Then the code I want to execute, which is maybe you are eligible for voting. And you see that on our console, we already see like the condition is returning true. That means we are eligible for voting. So if I change this maybe to 12, the part won't be executed since the age is not greater or equal to 18. So that's how we use if statement. Then the next one is just if else statement, which is now has multiple, it is checked for multiple conditions, like if the first is true, execute that. Then if the condition is false, it executes the second part. The same thing. So I use the age. So my age 1. So let me comment this. So my age 1 is a number, and I'm 12 years. Then I want to check the same thing now. So if my age is greater or equal to 18, then I'm eligible for voting. So if I'm over 18, I'm eligible for voting. So this part of my code of the statement, it will be executed. So what if I'm not, what if this condition returns false? So like, for instance, like this time, the age is 12. So that means our condition is false. So we need now the else part. So if now else part, it indicates like, um I'm not eligible for voting. And you can see on our console log, the statement that is being printed is this, because our age is 12. And if I change this to 20 or 21, in our console log, we shall get like we are eligible for voting. So if else statement is more suitable to use rather than using if statement alone, because you need to have like to check whether this thing is true. You do this. If this condition is false, do this. Yeah. So let's go on with the next condition statement, which is if else if. So if else if, it's used to check for multiple conditions. So if else statement, and it's so simple to use this. And I want to just to have an example of a grading system. So based to check, maybe to assign the grade based on the marks. So let me have a variable here, which is marks, which is of type number, and I can assign it a value of 70. And just below that, I need to have an empty grade variable, which is of type string. And I want now to use the if else if statement. So I need to check for the first condition. So if max is our condition, so that's what we are checking. So max is greater than or equals to maybe about 50. We want to make sure like that is an A. So we want now to assign our grade. So we want to update this grade with this value here, which is now grade a value of A. Then what if you are between 80 and you are above 80? So you use now else if max is greater or equals to 80, you assign it to a B. Then we need to check for the third else if. So else if max is greater than 70, we want to tell the user or the student you have a grade C. Then the next one maybe a D. So else if your mark is greater than C, maybe your grade is D. Then I just want to have the last block, which is now not include if, so I just use else, and anything that is below 60 or 59, that's a fail. So this is our if else if statement. We have our two variable, which is our marks and grades. So our marks is what we are using to have as our condition. So if it returns true, do this. So if else if this returns true, do this. And if this do this. If this returns true, do this. Then the last is else. So if all this does not meet, so do this. Then you need now to call this grade here so that you can be able to see your grade. So console log, then you console log your grade there. So anything like this above 60, 70, so our condition is here. So your grade is C, and you can see our grade there. But we have not considered our edge case. For instance, we know our marks it's up to 100. So what if I enter like 130? So what will be the output of this condition? So you can see we have a grade A, which is now it's not correct. So you need to check for all edge cases. So for instance, like here, you can now use the operators to check between 90 and maybe something to do with the marks less than or equal to 100. And with that, you'll be able to see now also the same. We are getting B because anything that is greater than 80. So even one that is greater than 80. So our grade is B. So even this, you need to check for the edge cases. So like we use now the AND operator to check to make sure like the condition fits our what we are trying to do. So because 90 is here, so this will not be 90. So we need now to adjust our codeware, which is now to be 89. So that's something like that. And you see the same thing if you are checking for the two conditions, so the lower side and the upper side. So and you are using that by using the AND operator. So this condition will return true if these two conditions returns true. So yes, 130 is greater than 80, but it's not less than 89. So the condition moves next to the next statement, which is now max is greater than 70. So 130 is greater than 70. So this condition returns true. So we get this output where now is the person is is having a C despite him having a max of 130. So we need also to check the edge case of this, maybe now and max less than 70. So if that now the case, so anything between 70 and 79, that's a C. So, and you can see we have a D because 130 is greater than 60. So we need also to have our edge case there. Oh, just a minute. Oh, that way. So anything between 60 and 69, that's a D. Now the else part, it's something you need now to figure a way out to check for these conditions. So for F, I need now to, I may need to add an else if, another else if, then to check the condition. So if max is now maybe greater than maybe from 0 to 59, that's a fail. Then you can see our code has an error because we do not have the default case. So we need now to add our else case. Then inside our code, we need now to assign a grade, means like now 130, it's an invariant marks. So we need that case to be under this condition here. So I don't know what the cause. So declaration. Oh, you have a double curly braces there. And you can see now you have been able to capture all the edge cases And if you input something now which is over 130, that's an invalid marks. Something like maybe a negative, so negative 45, that's also an invalid marks. You can see our if statement is checking for all our edge cases. So if you have now maybe 2, that's a fail. So that's how you work along with if else if statement. So let's move now to our next switch statement, which is now our fourth conditional statement in this session. So switch statement. So the switch statement, we said it's used to the switch statement is used to compare variables against multiple possible outcomes. And for instance, let's have this example here. So I want to work with days, with the weekdays. So I have a day, maybe let the day be a type of string, then assign it maybe Monday. Then I will have now the switch statement. So the switch statement is use the switch keyword. So switch, or this is a day, not it. So switch, then the condition is now our day. This is what we are using now to compare a single variable into multiple possible values. So switch that day, then you open the curly braces, then inside our curly braces, we need now to switch or maybe to compare each case on through our this variable here, which is now our day. So I want to say like now case 1, or maybe case case if it's on Monday. So that case if it's Monday, we need to do something. So maybe we can say like this is the start of this week. So console log, then just a statement there, start of the week. So this is the start of a work week, something like that. So you need to use the keyword break so that you can exit out of the statement, the condition, then you move next. So the next is now the next case you are checking. So we have checked for Monday, so we need to maybe to check for Friday. So case Friday. Then if it's Friday, I just need to console like maybe this is the end of the week. Then I use the break keyword to exit out of the switch statement. And I need now to have 2 cases here to cater for a weekend. So a weekend is for Saturday and Sunday. So I may have now case Saturday and join it with case Sunday. Case Sunday. So for these two, I just need to say like enjoy your weekend. It's something like that. So console dot log, then open the parentheses, speech mark, then enjoy the weekend. Then you also need to have the break keyword to exit out of the switch case whenever that condition is met. to avoid infinite checking. Then the last, you need to have a default case. We're saying like you need a default case to handle unexpected values. So I need to have a default case, which is now just a console log, maybe saying like midday days, so something like that. So then I need now a closing. I think we are done now with our case. So our case is starting from this day is our condition. So we are checking if it's this switch this day. So if the case is Monday, so we need to do this. If the case is Friday, it's the end of the week. Then if the case is Saturday or Sunday, it's a weekend. So enjoy that weekend. Then the default. So the default, if it's not Monday, if it's not Friday, if it's not Saturday, and if it's not Sunday, then maybe it's a midday. So between Tuesday and Thursday. So that's midweek days. Then and you can see already on our console log, we are getting the output like it's the start of the work week because our day is assigned to Monday. So if I assign it Tuesday, the output will skip this, skip this, skip this, and go on to our default case, which is now Tuesday is a midweek, so days, something like that, and so on. So that's an example of a switch. And to clarify on a switch case, I just need to have another example using maybe an enum, the role. So I want to switch the role based on the case, the user role. So I need to have a switch case here. Switch with maybe enum. So last week we talked about enums. So I want to have an enum here, which is a role, and this enum has three roles, which is now admin, then I have a editor, then maybe a viewer. Then and my variable here user role. So let user role be this user role of type string. Remember, this is a string enum, so I need to type this with a string. Then the role, I'm assigning it this user role dot admin. So that means our role is admin. Then I can use now the switch statement to switch over through this statement. So switch, then the user role is our condition we are checking. Then if first case is role, so our enum role dot admin, we need to just maybe control you have the full access of the system. So just below here, so you have the full access of the system. So this is a full colon, not a semicolon. Then just below this, I need now to check the other case, which is editor. If your editor, your work is to moderate the control, or maybe to reading and creating, then you need a break keyword there. Then if you have role.viewer, so the work of a viewer is just a read-only role. So you are limited control, then the default case, which is now like maybe a normal user, so you'll be denied the access of this system. So just below that, like maybe you have no control over this. And just be can see our console here, because our user role is admin. So and admin has the full control of this system. So this is what is having. Then we have, if we assign this to something like anything, so we'll get an error because it's not defined. So we need now to go back to our this and have maybe viewer, a viewer, you have the limited control. So that's how you play along with a switch statement. And we are done with conditional statements, and I want now to move on to our last session of this session, which is now loops. So loops, I just want to spin up this. I just need to have a file there, loops.ts. Then under that file, just export that file. Loops. And we can get started with the loops. So we said loops are used for iterating through over an element, and maybe to avoid the repetitive task in our project. And the first loop we said is a for loop, and a for loop we said it has the three statements, the where statement. So we have the initialization, we have the Boolean. So the Boolean is either the true or false. Then the statement, which is now is incremented or decremented, depending on what you are checking or the thing. So for the for loop, so this is the syntax. So the syntax we saying it's initialization, then the condition. So the condition, it must be true or false. Then the statement, you just need to increment or decrement on how you want to do. So let me have just a simple for loop example. So for loop there. So a for loop, so you use the keyword for, then you open the parentheses where now you want to iterate through. So I just need to declare a variable I, then initialize it with 0. And this I, you can also type it there if you want. So type number. Then after the initialization, you need to the condition. So the condition must return true or false. So what are we checking? So our I, so I less than maybe 5. So that's the condition. So if whenever I is less than 5, so do our condition here. So let me open the curly braces there, and maybe to have a console log there. So console log dot log, then open parentheses. I want to use the backtick to just call my variable directly there. So backtick, then the number, just something like that. So anytime I is less than 5, that's true. So we need now to execute this. Then we need the statement. So the statement is used now to increment or decrement. So for this case, I want my I to be incremented. So I use the 2 plus operator. That means like I'm incrementing one element, like one in this variable I here. So the initial value is 0. Then I, so each is 0 is less than 5, that's true. Then I increment that to 1. So our value is here, then we construct that value, which is 0 there. Then we come back. Our I was incremented to 1. So our I here is 1. So 1 is less than 5. That's true. Then we increment I. So I is 1, 1 plus 1, which is 2. Then you do this. So you keep on iterating over until our condition becomes false. So at the 5th time, so this will be 6 is less than 5, which is now false. So we exit out of the loop, and that's how a for loop works. So let me import this file in our index.ts file. So import our named function, which is loops, from our loops file. And I need to comment this, and just below this, I just need to call that loop function. So, and our function is just iterating, and you can see we have now be able to iterate through I. So the first I is 0. So this is the condition. So that's true. So 0. Then I plus 1. So 1, do this, output this, and increment. So 1 plus 2, 1 plus 1, which is 2. So 2 is less than 5. Output that 2, then increment by 1. So which is 3, and on and go on. So whenever now we reach 5. So 5, it's not less than 5. It's 5 is equals to 5. So that our condition is false. That's why you cannot be able to see 5 there. So if you want to display 5, you need now to add something to do like maybe less than or equal to 5. That's the time it will be able to print number 5, because we have checked the two condition, which is now 5 might be less than 5 and 5 is equals to 5. So the two conditions, so 5, it's one of these. So 5 is equals to 5, and that's how you iterate through. And you can also use for loop to iterate through arrays. So let me give an example of for loop with arrays. So I want to have a list of products here. So products, these products are of type string, which is an array. So we use the square bracket. Then under this, we have maybe a TV, a mobile, a laptop, a tablet, and this. Then we can use now our for loop to iterate through these elements here. So the first thing is the for keyword, then the parentheses, then the block of the code you want to display when the condition, when all our conditions are met. And what I want to display is just the values of this, the values of this array. So I just need to have a console log there, console log dot log, then parentheses, backtick, then maybe product, just dollar sign there. Then I just need to have something simple here to maybe to number my a product. So I just need to have I plus 1, I plus 1, then I just need to concatenate that then with my product, which is now the product. Then I'm using the square bracket to access the index of that product there. You can see our error is I cannot find I because we have not implemented our initialization here, the condition, and the statement. So our initialization, you want to start from 0. So let I be equals to 0. Then I want I to be less than. So less than the total length of this array product. So, and we said we can get the length of this product using the inbuilt functions that are available in TypeScript or JavaScript. So if I call this product and I use the dot, I'll be able to see all the functions that I can perform on this array, but I want to get the length of this array. So which is now this length here. Then the statement. So the statement, I just need to increment this. So I increment, and our for loop is implemented. And if you see in our product here, we are able to see now the product 1 is TV, product 2 is mobile, product 3 is laptop, and product 4 is this. That's about for loop. And the second one is for in loop. So for in loop is used to iterate properties of an object. So let me quickly demonstrate this. So for in loop, I just need to have an object. So let's maybe user, object user, user be initialized with this value, maybe Dennis being the first key, then my age, and maybe the role, which is a developer or developer. So I can use for in loop to iterate over these properties of this object. So I use now for, and I open the parentheses, and now the where my code I want it to be. So inside my code where I want to display, I just need to display the keys of these objects and their properties. So console log, so console dot log, then let me just use what the copilot is suggesting. So I'm just displaying the key and then the value of that object using the bracket notation to access each value of this object. Then under my inside my condition, so I want now to have let key, so in this object, which is now user. So this for let key in the user, so the object user display each element of this property. So we may have our error here saying like our element is implicitly as any type. So we need to type these keys. So under the way we can type this, we can use the as key of keyword. So let me do this. So user, then key as key of, then the type of this user. So the type of this user, and you can see our error has gone, and you can see now on our console log, we are getting the 3 values there of our object, and we have iterated through the for in loop. So the first key is the name. So this is the key name. Then the value is the first key of this element, which is now the property that is. Then the second key is age. The value is 25. Then the third key is role, and the value is a developer. So that's how you use for in loop to iterate over an object. So for in loop is best when working with object, but we have for off. So for off is used is best when using arrays. And the two other remaining, so while and do while loop. So let me quickly do this. So while loop. So while loop, it's always check for the condition before executing the code or checking the condition. So if I have a variable I here, which is a number, it's of type number 5, then I use while. So while I is greater than 0, maybe just console log the number I, then you decrement I. Because I is 5, we want now to decrement this until I becomes false when we reach at point maybe less than when we reach at point 0. So 0 is not greater than 0. So we exit out of the loop, and this is what is happening here. So excuse me. So we are checking the I. So I is 5. We console log the 5 there. Then we decrement. So 5I was 5. When we decrement, we subtract 1 from our number, which is 4. So 4 is greater than 0. We display that here. Then we do the same thing. Decrement again until we reach 1. So when we reach at 1, so 1, we console log that 1, then we decrement. So 1 minus 1 is 0. So 0, it's not greater than 0. That's false. Then we exit out of our loop, and we can see now that value is this, which is 1. And just to demonstrate well with a while loop again, let me have another example here, just to have a countdown using the while loop. So I'm having a countdown of 5. Then while condition is greater than this, countdown until you do this. So if I stop my server here, then restart this, I will be able to see the countdown here: 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then when we exit out of our loop, we now execute the rest of code, which is now left off. Then the last one is do while loop. So do while loop, it's always it always execute the code before checking the condition. And just a simple of this, let me have a variable j here. So let j be equals to 1. It's of type number. Then, so we use the do keyword. Then, while this is while our condition is true, we want to do this console log that number. Then we want to increment. Then outside our code, that's where now we want to check our condition. So while our condition, so our condition is J is less than or equal to 5. Do this. So the good thing with do while, it will always execute this part before checking the condition. So as for instance, I is equals to 1, so it will display that. Then increment j with 1, so that's 2. So 2 is less than 5. So come here, do this until j becomes false. That's where now our condition becomes false. It exit from the code, the condition or the loop, and that's all. Then just the last example of a do while. Let me copy this. So we have a username here, which is of type string or nar. Then we are saying like do this. So we want to prompt it to enter our name. Then while our name is the name is not supplied or entered, you need to go back and do this until our condition becomes false. So let me start my project, the project here. Prompt is not defined because I think we are on the console and might not be able to prompt us to display this. But all in all, so that's the examples we have tackled. So today we have looked about the control statements from if else, then if statement, then the switch case. Then about our loops, we have checked out about the for loop, for in loop, while loop, and do while loop. So these are the primary control statements we use. So there are so many of them, like for, you have not been able to tackle that. So you can go ahead and explore all the condition statements that are provided by any language. And I hope we have learned something today. And before we wind up, let me take any question or clarification. Any question or clarification, please, before we call off our meeting?